There we go.
Awesome. So the first thing that we need to consider here is understanding social media platforms and demographics. So the big idea of why use this? Why is this going to be important for us? So people use social media to connect with others, engage in dialogue, consume content, and exchange goods. Those are basically like the big four that people really use technology for, or social media specifically. The Pew Research Center did a big multi-year study on social media and published all of their data in 2021. So many of these graphics you'll see are from the study. They have a lot of really useful information. So if you take a look at this graph that I have here on this slide, right around 2009, as you can see from the graph, is when social media really started to peak and businesses started harnessing the power of social media. And so with the rise in population of people on social media, came the rise of businesses and organizations trying to promote their goods and services. So 2009, if I go back and think about it, I'm fairly certain that that was the time that I helped start one church's social media presence on Facebook. And by that point in time, there weren't too many churches using it, but it was something to where people were seeing that there was going to be a need because more and more people were getting on social media and using it. And so why not take that idea of where the people are and bringing that that awareness either from your church, from your organization, from your business, bringing it into where people are actually consuming content. And so now, by this point, almost 75% of all US adults are on some form of social media. So we're not going to get into all of them today, but we are going to focus on the most popular ones that are here. And so considering all of that information, you need to consider which social media platform is going to make the most impact for your chapter. And from there, when you identify the platform, then you're going to be able to figure out how to get it started and what kind of content to use. All right, so let's go ahead over to the next slide here. We're going to understand some of these social media platforms and their demographics. Okay. So in figuring out that you need a good social media presence, you're going to need to consider your three big ideas: your platform, your audience, and your content. Okay. So for platform, let's go ahead and consider, say for example, Naples, Florida. I'm from Florida, born and raised in St. Petersburg, and so the Naples community is more of a retirement community. Okay, so if you're looking at the demographics on this table that we're showing you here, do you really think that Snapchat would be a good platform for those who are 65 years and older? Because only 2% it shows are on Snapchat, right? But notice that 50% of those who are 65 and over are on Facebook. So if you were in Naples and were looking at trying to get a platform for social media, which one would be more beneficial for you in the long run, right? Obviously, Facebook. You can also take a look at some of these other demographics. It is interesting to see that those who are higher earning overall are on social media more often. And that is showing some idea of the way that people are partaking in and consuming content. And so again, if your content isn't there, then you have people, could be your big donors, those who are making over 75,000 a year. You're missing those people if you're not on those platforms. Make sense? But you also don't want to be on all of them because overkill is a thing and burnout is a thing. And so many people use social media for various purposes. Many people also avoid social media for various reasons. And so, there are a ton of people, and I'm sure you can probably think of some people in your AGO chapter as well, that don't use social media or aren't on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And, if you have a majority of people in your chapter that aren't on social media, just because you're not on social media yourself doesn't mean that you are allowed to or should remain in the dark about its abilities. And so that's something that I really want to emphasize going forward, that, a lot of people are a little afraid of social media and the stigma that it produces. And really understanding that if you're an organization that wants to take advantage of social media platforms for the purpose of furthering the guild's goal and furthering your chapter's goal, you really need to consider diving deep into social media platforms, using them for the benefit of your chapter and the guild, and furthering both yourself and the organization that way. It is good to note that they do consider YouTube a social media platform, because there is some social engagement content that exists within YouTube. But remember that YouTube is primarily for sharing longer forms of video media and less emphasis for community building and dialogue. So in terms of advertising or doing anything like that, I know that, there are plenty of churches who put their live streams on YouTube, plenty of organ concert artists who put their recordings on YouTube, and those are all very good things. I'm not bashing that at all. I'm just saying, for the purpose of using social media to further content engagement, other than those longer forms of music, that you're going to want to consider something other than just YouTube. If your chapter has just a YouTube, that's a great start, but I want to get you into the Facebook and the Instagram and things like that. So you need to consider what your chapter may already be using. Are you on too many platforms or too few platforms? My guess is probably too few. If you use Facebook and not Instagram, you're missing out. If you use YouTube but you're not on Facebook, you're missing out. All right. I don't see any questions yet, but feel free if you have anything specifically on social media platforms and the way to use some of those. This is the time that you're going to want to go ahead and ask those, because the further that we move into some things, we're going to get down into some nitty-gritty stuff. We're going to get a little bit more focused. All right. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. So understanding which social media is right. Again, we went through this in looking at those demographics on the last page, but with Facebook specifically, you have a larger age range and a larger membership. Okay, the highest media is consumed here. The most members are also here. And so that's something that that you really want to understand when you're going forward. Facebook is usually the safest option, particularly for our demographic in the AGO. Instagram is going to be the second most used social media platform. Okay, it is image and video based, so most of it is multimedia content. But that's not to say that you can't put engaging things on there, even if they're text based. So Facebook and Instagram are going to be the two main ones that we're going to focus on today. With Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, those are the other big three, comprising the sort of big five social media platforms that exist nowadays. But Twitter, there's a slight decline in popularity as a news source specifically. So in terms of like getting information, when's the next AGO potluck or when's the next concert, things like that, people don't really go to Twitter to find out information. They're mostly using Twitter as an opportunity to express opinions. The limited use of characters is also something that people find intriguing. The idea that, the way that it used to be was 140 characters or less. They've expanded that, of course, but the idea that you're voicing your opinion in that short amount is what is driving people to engage on that platform. Snapchat is more popular with ages 30 and younger. So I'm 29, I'm almost 30, I know. But I'm not on Snapchat, and I was, but it's engaging a lot of smaller social media clips, excuse me, smaller multimedia clips, videos, photo slideshows, things like that tend to disappear. And so that's not exactly the demographic that you're looking for again. With TikTok, it is also another platform that is popular among people aged 30 and younger, and their content is almost exclusively video based and photo slideshow based sometimes as well. And we have a rise in organists that are taking use of that platform. It's interesting, it's intriguing. If you are not on TikTok, there are quite a few really lovely organ influencers that are on TikTok that are using that. But I would not say that for the purpose of this and for furthering your purposes as your chapter and their publicity and your events, I'm not going to say that that's the best one that you need to be looking into right now. Again, we're going to stick with the Facebook and the Instagram. Let's go ahead to the next one. So let's talk Facebook for a second, okay? There are 3 different areas of Facebook that you can have a presence in, okay? It's a profile. So for example, I have a personal profile. If you went in and searched my name, my profile will come up with my picture, my personal details, or the personal details that I choose to show, pictures relating to my life, my experiences. That's a personal profile, okay? Those personal profiles are only really for people. So businesses are not allowed, okay? That's where you make those friend connections. Your friends can view your profile. There is no advertising that your personal profile can do. But you as a user on Facebook can create other pages and groups. And those pages and groups can be more official presences, okay? So with a Facebook profile, you can create a page, and a Facebook page would be something like the organization, the XYZ chapter of the American Guild of Organists would be a great page. Okay. That's also where a lot of celebrities, like their fan-based accounts and things like that would be. Things like churches, other entities, organizations, that's where the pages would be. Okay. And pages is a way for a non-profile identity to share things. You can also do some advertising through that page. So you can pay to promote some posts. Groups are a little different. Groups are meant for dialogue. Okay. They're a place to communicate about shared interests with certain people. So a group would be gathered around a specific interest. A specific TV show might have a page where they say, oh, the next episode is coming out, but they might have a group where people can get on and share things that they have found out about the show, or share things that they like about the show, things like that, right? The American Guild of Organists, I believe at this point in time, still has both a page and a group. They might have multiple groups. I'm not sure. Elizabeth might have to help me with that. I'm not sure if
I think the desire is that we had a public group and we had a private group, and we're going to merge those now. It's become too confusing. But there is also a private Facebook group page for chapter leaders. And for those of you who haven't joined it, you can find it on Facebook, and you just need to request to join. But it's a great opportunity to do some sharing and communications. And I think we do have a question here. Let's see.
Oh, no,
We do have one. JW Arnold. Hello, JW, our marketing communication specialist. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we do have one group now, the AGO Organ Forum. Thank you for pointing that out.
Fantastic. So yeah, for example, the American Guild of Organists, they have a page. So that page is run officially by AGO HQ. They put out what webinars are happening. They put out things that are happening in other chapters. They put out official AGO HQ information. That is a page. That is like a personality profile of AGO HQ. Groups are where people can come together and talk or share things related to the organ and related to the AGO. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If you'd like, I'd be happy to go into that in more detail, but I have a feeling that there are some other more important things that we need to get to as well. So if you do have a question, go ahead and throw it in the Q&A. But otherwise, we are going to get moving to the next slide. So using Instagram, okay? We were just focusing on Facebook for a minute. I'd like to get back over to Instagram. So a business profile is going to be best for an Instagram account, okay? Switching your Instagram account is not difficult, but it is necessary. When you create an Instagram account, you have, again, it's kind of like a Facebook profile. You have your own profile where you can share your things and your interests, and it's about you, correct? If I have an Instagram profile, that's cool. I do, and I share things, but I'm not going to be able to track statistics. There's really no reason for me as a personal user of Instagram to track statistics of how many people are looking at my page. I also can't schedule posts in advance because, again, it's something to where the personal profile is more of what's happening in the moment right then. And I also can't advertise anything. And which, again, why would I want to if it's just a personal profile, correct? So they differentiate personal profiles and business profiles, not publicly, just on the back end. So with a personal profile, it's sort of like the basic level. You are not going to get those kinds of things. But when you upgrade it, and it's free, all you have to do is go into your settings and switch it to a business profile. You're going to get access to posting simultaneously with Instagram and Facebook. You're going to get the professional dashboard, which gives you all of your statistics and insights that you're going to want to rely on if you're trying to form a schedule for your posts. You're also going to be able to schedule those posts in advance and use some integrated posting software. So oftentimes you cannot post from an external platform or post to another platform unless you're using an Instagram business account. And then again, you can promote your posts and create advertisements. So those are all important things if you're an organization or a business needing to upgrade your social media presence that way. So I would recommend that if you are an AGO chapter looking to expand into Instagram, you're going to want to do that and not keep it as a personal profile, because you're going to get all those extra tools. All right. So time for our big three. Next slide, please. We are back on platform and audience. We've basically covered those. Okay. We've touched on why Facebook and Instagram is so important. We've also touched on what to consider with your audience and what they're going to need from you in order to make the most impact to them. Now we can get into a little bit of content. The content is kind of the fun part. The content is also the hardest part for me personally. I am more of a to-do list, check the things, check the boxes, get the to-do list completed, do the things. I don't have as much creativity when it comes to creating actual engaging content and getting colors and fonts and all of that wonderful design stuff, right? But that is where you can lean on some external platforms and lean on other people. So we will get into that a little bit through. I went through, speaking of going through, I went through all of the AGO chapter Facebook pages that I could find. And gotta say, y'all, you can do better. You can do a lot better. I picked these 4 graphics specifically because I think that these 4 graphics showcase a great combination of the eye-catching images, cohesive fonts and color schemes, and a good balance of the text and image. Okay, so there are a lot of them that have posted, maybe a photo gallery of some events that have happened, which those things are great. But if you're looking to advertise more social media presence things, more events that you're doing, the things that you want to draw people into doing more of, then you're going to have to make sure that your graphics are engaging, eye-catching. When you're going through and taking a look at some things, which ones do you stop on and take a look at? Those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to focus on and say, oh, I like the coloring on that, or oh, I like the photos that they're using. I like the way that they have caught my attention with the verbiage that they used or the font selection that they used. And so we'll get into designing that content, but let's go ahead and talk about getting it out there, the scheduling part first. All right, let's move ahead to the next slide, please. So scheduling your content. Okay, this is probably the most daunting thing for many people, because if you have an event coming up, okay, let me design a thing, let me figure out how to post the thing, and let me post the thing, and I'm done, right? Not exactly. Okay, so content schedules are really useful, and they are helpful in understanding exactly when you should do things, exactly how you should do things, and a way to keep your social media platforms from sort of falling on top of each other with the content. I do know some that do what I call bulk posting, is, they'll make all their content graphics for the entire month, say, and they'll post them all on one day, like 20 minutes apart from each other. As soon as they create a graphic, they post the content. You got the content up there, that's great, but you need to consider using time to your advantage and spacing those things out, because in the long run, that's going to help you maintain an actual audience in keeping people coming back and making sure that they see something that's happening and making sure that they're engaging with that content. All right. So again, conceptualizing and creating the social media stuff is the first step. But this content idea is a new level, and it's a commitment. It will take some time to sit down and determine what kind of schedule is best for you and the way that you want to map out your engagement with the people that are following your page, your audience. So it's also easily the number one role in your chapter that will experience burnout. So if there's somebody, like, for example, I am the cathedral administrator at my church, okay, and I'm usually the one that's scheduling the content. I'm not usually the one that's designing the content, because that's just a lot of brain power, right? And it's a lot of time. And so when I have someone else giving me that content and designing those graphics, then I can take that in and I can plan it in my schedule. Okay, so let's take a look at the schedule right here. All right, I presented 2 ideas of ways that things could work. And sorry, I'm looking that way because that's where my slides are. So for the top one, okay, the top one is event-based. And this comes straight from some design experts, some, why can't I think of the word? People who work in digital marketing. It comes from a digital marketing firm, and I was using their template in order to figure out how to space out events. Okay, and so this is actually something that was given to me, but it's a great idea, and I've used it ever since I found this out. So the idea of an event, okay, taking an event and we're taking a list of events. So for example, you have the members recital, a potluck, another concert, and an installation of officers and things like that, correct? So I threw out some dates. So members recital on Halloween, you know, your pipe screams or your organ spooktacular. So if that's occurring on the 31st of October, you're going to want to post something that day, right? Because you're going to want to remind people that that is something that's coming up. But working back from that, you're going to want to post approximately 2 to 3 days before, because you're going to want to remind people to make sure that they have their stuff in order so that they're going to make it to your concert, right? You're also going to want to post about a week before, week and a half, to, again, remind people who have put it on their calendars, oh, this is coming up. And you're probably going to want to go out as far as 3 or 4 weeks before and making sure to introduce this event that's coming up, right? And you can go out farther than that, but for something, you know, for something bigger, if you have, you know, say your chapter has underwritten a concert artist to come in and do something, you're going to want to publicize that probably 2-3 months in advance. That might be my guess, depending on whether or not you're selling tickets or anything else that's entailed with that event. So you could certainly work out from there. But if you're trying to get as many people as possible, you need to keep that stuff in their mind, because if they're scrolling through, they can say, oh yeah, that thing is coming up on the 31st. I really wanted to make it to that. Okay, maybe they just thought, hey, I want to put that on my calendar, but they didn't actually put it on the calendar. And a couple weeks later, they see your graphic again. Oh man, I really have to put that on my calendar. So there we go. Uh-oh. Elizabeth, are we okay here?
I am so sorry. Let's go back to where we were. Technology, that's where we are. Okay. There we go. Okay. We did get a question, and I think you've answered it, but Margaret Baum said, could you please explain the ideas in your chart?
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more.
Yes, I'm on my way into that one actually right now. So the first one was the event-based one. Okay, and that's the schedule that I used at the top. The bottom is an idea of keeping people engaged, not only on events, but also on your page in general. Okay, so there's a really fine line between posting content for the purpose of being informative and making sure that people are getting to your events and things, and posting content just for the sake of posting content. Okay, so that's something that you don't want to do too much of. Like once a day organ fact is not going to hit it with these people. Okay, but what you might want to do is you might want to have some just strategically placed things on certain days of the week, for example, This is a pretty robust one. I would say that if you were doing something like this, you might want to go start slow with like maybe twice a week, and maybe not a 4-time-a-week schedule, but say something like every Tuesday is going to be Trivia Tuesday, some organ fact, a general music fact, or composer fact, right? Those are just 3 ideas that could come up. So every Tuesday, you're going to be posting some interesting trivia. For Thursdays, for example, in my content idea chart, maybe Thursdays you're going to feature a local church and a local organist who might be in your chapter, right? So you might do an organist feature of somebody in your chapter and where they play and the instrument that they play. You might do an organ builder feature if there's an organ builder in the area, or if, for example, you want to feature an organ at a specific church by a specific builder that you're looking for, or just a current local event that could involve the organ, right? You could determine that every Saturday is an event spotlight. Hey, our next event coming up is XYZ, make sure that you're participating in this. Or, we have a potluck coming up on January 7th. I'm looking back at the event calendar. We have a potluck coming up on January 7th. Make sure to get your RSVP in by New Year's Eve. Things like that. And then another good idea is your Sunday morning live streams, right? With the rise in live streaming capabilities with COVID, there were some, as devastating as it was, there were some really good things that have come out of it. And one of those is our use of technology and digital media in order to draw ties, bring people together. And one of those things is using live streams in churches. And so what a great idea for you to say, every Sunday, we're going to select a different church live stream and share their live stream for the day. Oh, and it's AGO member so-and-so, and they're playing on this kind of organ. How great is it to feature a member of your chapter, an organ from a church in your chapter, and say there's an event that you want to do with a church and you need a church to collaborate with. And down the line, you can say, oh, well, we've shared your live stream 4 times. It'd be great to use your venue for something. You're building those community relations just by sharing a Facebook post from somebody else's Facebook page, another church's Facebook page. So that's another idea too. Margaret, I'm hoping that I answered your question about the ideas in this chart here. But those are 2 ways that you can consider scheduling your posts in order to make the most, to get the most bang for your buck is really what we're looking at here. And making sure that when you have things scheduled out, it's a lot easier to say, oh yeah, today's the day that I'm going to get this thing out, this specific organ factor, this specific information on this builder, rather than, oh, it's about time that I send something out on Facebook. I wonder what I want to send. And then thinking of the idea, thinking of the graphic, putting it all together, making sure that it's posted. This is just all laid out for you. You know exactly what to do. It just might take a little bit to get there, but it'll be a lot easier than throwing something out of thin air. All right. I'm wondering if anybody else has any ideas for content themes. We have the Sunday church live stream theme. We have the Trivia Tuesday. I love me some alliteration. The Thursday local church feature and the Saturday event spotlight. Is there any other ideas that you could put or that you can consider in using in content generation? If so, go ahead and pop it in the pop it in the Q&A. I'm not sure that there's a chat here. Probably pop it in the Q&A. Please do. Please do. I'd like to know.
We've got chat as well, but I'm not seeing anybody being brave enough to think of something.
Well, yeah. I love new ideas, so keep them coming. Let's go ahead on to creating content on the next slide. So Canva is definitely my favorite place to create content. Okay, there are various programs that are out there. There's Canva. I've seen Visme. I've even seen people use Adobe to create a graphic. Those things are great. I am a Canva fan. I'm a Canva fan mainly because I think it's very intuitive to use. I think that the design on it and everything is really easy to work around and to incorporate some other details. I also think that they have a lot of free features that are great. I do highly recommend, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. I do highly recommend that you consider the pro version. I don't remember off the top of my head how much it costs, but the cost is worth it. You get access to a lot more features on Canva. You get access to a lot more graphics, so you spend less time trying to find things that are under permission, or that are not open source. So those are kind of some things that you're going to have to consider. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the 301 area. We're in the 201 now, as you can see. I also highly recommend keeping a record of the posts that you like from a graphic design standpoint. Okay, so I talked about that a little bit a couple slides ago, but the idea of having a deliberate time where you don't just go on social media just to go on social media. You can also go on social media to find something specific than what you're looking for. So going on social media just for the idea of, I want to go and find graphics that I think are engaging to me and things that are catching my eye, things that make me want to stop and read, even if it might not even be the content area that I'm looking for. Okay. So there are ways that you can do that on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, to where, just stop and say, oh, wow, I really like that font choice or the way that those fonts work together. Take a screenshot of it. I have a whole album on my phone of, I have a whole album on my phone of just screenshots of graphics that I like, because eventually when I'm looking for inspiration, I can go back to that album and say, oh, wow, I really like those graphics, or I really like the colors that they used together in this one post, or I really like the wash on the photograph that they did. Even if you don't like what the content is about, again, if you stop to look at it, you need to ask yourself why. Sure.
We had a comment from David Vogels. Hello, David.
Yep.
Canva Pro is $120 a year.
Okay, so $10 a month.
Good way to think of it.
$10 a month. Hey, for $10 a month, I'd do that. For $5 a month, I took my ads off of Pandora Music because I like to listen to a lot of music. If you're willing to spend $10 a month to get all of those features, if you're doing some design stuff, that's great. Also, I'm sure even the smaller AGO chapters, if you're making graphics, are okay with $120 for a year. So that's something we'll talk about budgeting in the 301 section.
Okay, one comment here that I think we really need to deal with. Considering some of our board's reluctance to adopt social media, how can a chapter effectively, with assurance to those who are worried, empower an individual with the responsibility to post content without having to get approval every time from the dean and or the board?
Oh,
that's a tough, first of all, your board should not have a reluctance to adopt social media.
that was my first thing.
I'll let you continue.
My second alarm is getting approval every time. I think what needs to be done is a schedule. Like, first of all, identifying social media as a priority. Either you see it as a priority or you don't. There really is no in between. If you mail newsletters and flyers in the mail, then you are publicizing, right? So think of all the people, my husband checks the mail. I don't check the mail, right? And I only get the mail that's addressed to me and important, and TAO, because that's also important. So I don't see ads that come in. I don't see newsletters that come in. I don't check mail. And I know that might be a little millennially of me to say, but if there are people not checking mail, or if there are people that just take a look at something and throw the mail away, but they're on social media, even if you are checking your mail and you are on social media, you're on social media, and these demographics don't lie. When 75% of all US adults are on social media, if you're not using social media, then you are losing out on 75% of US adults, which could be a lot of audience members, which could be a lot of publicity, and really cheap publicity, because it's either free, or if you do choose to advertise, it's pennies, really. $5 can take you really far in advertising on social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So that's the first part. Okay. Yeah, like as Paul says, amen, trust your volunteers or you do it. I do like that. I do get snippy.
I'm also going to jump in and say it's a great recruitment opportunity.
Absolutely. I like I said, I'm a church administrator. The amount of times that people come in and walk in the door and say, "Oh yeah, I found you guys on your website," or "I found you guys on your social media."